under a pale, sickly sky. Two titans of a new world stand face to face, as Diana of the Wild Isle looms over a massive, armored Batman. The Dark Knight looks up at her with grim defiance, his voice a low growl as he asks if she's telling him to go to hell. The scene shifts to Friday at a gritty Gotham construction site, where the heavy shadows of machinery stretch across the dusty ground. Two workers trudge past a parked pickup truck, their silhouettes small against the looming skeletons of rising buildings. A weathered hand raps sharply against the truck's window, the sound echoing through the glass as a man calls out a cheerful wake-up call to Bruce. Inside, Bruce Wayne sits slumped in the driver's seat, his eyes hidden beneath the brim of a cap, looking like a man who hasn't slept in days. Bruce lets out a heavy, tired grunt, pressing a hand to his forehead as the reality of the morning sinks in. His face is etched with exhaustion, the weight of his secret life clearly taking its toll on his civilian persona. Outside, the workers share a laugh, one jokingly telling the other to leave the kid alone, while the foreman eyes Bruce's weary state. He asks Bruce if it was a late night and wonders aloud what the big guy's been doing with his time lately. The conversation turns to the rumors swirling through the city as debris from a demolished structure falls into a nearby dumpster. A voice rises above the din, questioning if anyone actually believes the stories about the Batman. A group of workers huddle around a blueprint, their expressions skeptical as they discuss the impossible speed of the city's vigilante. One man points out that the city would never have moved this fast to demolish the old stadium, yet Batman supposedly did it in a single day. The foreman redirects the crew's focus, shouting for the boys to start pouring concrete for the 150 new units. He reminds them that Gotham is desperate for this housing, his voice authoritative over the rumble of an excavator. High above on the scaffolding, two men continue to whisper about the dark things they've seen in the city's depths. One asks what that horrific Bane thing was, while the other admits the encounter makes him wonder if the Bat's warnings about the underworld are true. The sun begins to dip, the call goes out for everyone to pack it up for the weekend, the long shadows stretching across the construction yard. The workers begin to clear out, leaving the unfinished metal and stone behind. Lucius Fox stands with his back to us, talking to Bruce's silhouette, admitting that while his absence was felt, it's good to have him back on the site. Bruce apologizes, promising it won't happen again, but Lucius weighs it off, knowing Bruce wouldn't have left unless it was something life-altering. Lucius turns to Bruce with a paternal concern, asking him to do something for him over the weekend. He tells Bruce to get out there, touch some grass, ride a horse, or even get in a fight, anything, to just have some actual fun for once. The weekend begins at Gotham Presbyterian Hospital, where Bruce enters a sterile, darkened room carrying bags of food. He announces that he brought subs the usual double steak for Harvey and a bird supreme for Oz. Harvey Dent, his face a roadmap of scars and bandages, looks up from his hospital bed and mutters that it was thoughtful of Bruce to come. He adds a grim caveat, noting that Oz isn't exactly in a condition to eat solid food yet. Oswald Cobblepot, wrapped like a mummy with only one vengeful red eye visible, glares at Bruce with pure hatred. Bruce looks away, his expression pain as he quietly offers a stuttering apology. Oz spits out a curse about the sandwiches, his voice raspy and full of venom as he lies crippled in the bed. He sneers that at least Selina had the decency to leave them some money before she vanished into the night. Oz leans forward, his bandages tightening as he mocks Bruce for showing up with a heart full of pity. He asks if Selina left Bruce anything usual, sarcastically wondering if he's enjoying a broken heart on a roll. Bruce stands his ground, his face hardening as he stares at the broken man who was once his contemporary. He tells Oz flatly that he didn't come here to fight, ignoring the provocation with a practiced stoicism. Oz explodes in a fit of rage, asking why the hell Bruce came at all if not to gloat or make some empty gesture of rebuilding. He demands to know if Bruce thinks he can just patch things up after everything that's been destroyed. Oz continues his tirade, pointing out that while the world sees him, Harvey, and Ed as monsters, Bruce is the one who chose this path. He emphasizes that Bruce's life is a series of deliberate, dark choices that led them all here. He leans in close, his single eye wide with manic intensity as he shouts that Bruce can't even stand to look at them anymore. He repeats the accusation, his voice rising to a frantic crescendo as he challenges Bruce's gaze. Bruce remains silent, his head bowed and the shadow of his cap obscuring his eyes, looking every bit the man burdened by the truth of Oz's words. The weight of his guilt is palpable in the quiet of the hospital ward. Oz sneers that he knew Bruce would stay silent, acknowledging that while Bruce is great at saving the city, he's a failure at saving his friends. He taunts him to try saving someone he actually cares about for a change. Bruce turns to leave, walking past the privacy curtains. Oz screams after him to keep walking like the big hero he thinks he is. He barks out that Bruce isn't him, that he'll never be the man the city thinks he is. Harvey watches Bruce disappear, then turns back to his roommate with a sigh, telling Oz that he was being a bit harsh. His voice is weary, the fire of their old rivalries replaced by the cold reality of their injuries. Oz collapses back against his pillow with a wet, pained sound, his anger draining away into physical agony. The silence that follows is heavy, filled only with the mechanical hum of hospital equipment. Oz stares up at the ceiling, his eye narrowing again as he mutters that Bruce deserved every word of it. He remains unrepentant, his bitterness the only thing keeping him company in the dark. Later, Batman stalks through the cavernous halls of the Gotham Museum of Natural History, his flashlight cutting a sharp beam through the gloom. He passes a massive stuffed elephant that stands like a silent sentinel in the center of the rotunda. The Dark Knight's face is half submerged in shadow, his jaw set in a grim line as he moves with a singular, desperate purpose. He is no longer Bruce Wayne. He is a hunter seeking a power far beyond the modern world. He stops before a pair of ancient Greek statues flanking a heavy stone doorway, their marble forms weathered and imposing. He enters a chamber that feels older than the museum itself, a place where history and myth begin to blur. Batman approaches a pedestal, holding a large ancient urn, his light illuminating the fine details of the artifact. He's looking for a very specific gateway, one hidden in plain sight among the relics of the past. He pauses, his cowled head tilting as he focuses his senses on the room around him. He can feel the shift in the air, the thinning of the veil that separates the world of men from the realm of gods. On the wall, an ancient depiction of a centaur archer seems to glow under his gaze, its arrow aimed at an unseen foe. It's a herald of the journey he is about to undertake. Another mural shows a sphinx, its crouched posture and knowing expression suggesting that only those who can answer the right questions may pass. Batman doesn't have time for riddles, only for results. The final image is that of a minotaur, a beast of the labyrinth, representing the physical trials that await anyone brave or foolish enough to enter the underworld. Batman pulls off his heavy tactical gloves, his hands steady despite the gravity of what he is about to do. He reaches into a pouch on his utility belt, retrieving a small metallic object. With a soft tap, he places the talisman of Hecate onto a ritualistic surface, the silver metal glinting in the dark. It is a gift he never intended to use, but desperation has a way of changing a man's mind. A searing red light erupts from the talisman, tracing a rectangular doorway into the very air of the museum. The sound of burning energy hisses through the room as the portal to the Wild Isle begins to form. Standing before the glowing rift, Batman speaks into the void, his voice echoing with authority as he demands an audience with Diana. A woman's voice responds from the other side with a calm, "Hello, Bruce," acknowledging his presence. Diana of the Wild Isle steps through the portal, her presence filling the room with an ancient, primal energy. She knows that the talisman only works 3 times, so she assumes Bruce is summoning her for something truly dire. Batman explains that a friend of his has been changed, mutated into a beast that is losing its humanity, and he's hoping the myths of her people hold a cure. Diana listens, but warns that her lasso is the only tool capable of such a feat, and for a chaotic mind, it would be a disaster. Diana looks at him with eyes that have seen eons pass, telling him flatly that there is nothing on this plane that can cure his friend. She mentions an artifact in the other realm, but warns that the journey is long, deadly, and would take weeks of travel. Batman's silhouette is stark against the museum's dim light, as he simply states that he has a job to do. His dedication to Wayland is unwavering regardless of the distance or the danger described. Diana explains that luckily time moves differently in that realm, though she begins to reiterate the dangers. Bruce cuts her off, his voice firm as he tells her that if there is a chance to help Wayland, he wants to go right now. Accepting his resolve, Diana prepares the ritual, calling upon Hecate to accept her blood sacrifice. She stands before the portal, her arm outstretched as her blood sizzles against the gateway, her voice chanting the names of her divine lineage. Batman watches in silent awe as the magic takes hold, the museum room beginning to dissolve around them. He prepares himself for a world that defies every logic he has built his life upon. They emerge into a desolate, gray landscape where the ground is dust and the sky is a permanent twilight. Diana tells Bruce to steady himself, explaining that this is Aea, a place between the surface and the underworld where they must seek a being called Acrolis. Batman looks around the wasteland, his expression hidden by his cowl, as he asks Diana why they aren't using her flying horse to cover the distance. He is eager to move, his mind still tethered to the efficiency of the world he left behind. Diana glances at him, explaining that anything flying here becomes an immediate target, and they are far safer on foot. She adds that Pegasus is wary of mortals anyway, usually finding them entirely unworthy of his service. Batman asks with a hint of dry humor if she's saying the horse wouldn't like him, to which Diana offers no reply but a command to start walking. She sets a grueling pace, her long strides eating up the barren ground. By the second day, the environment grows hostile as massive bolts of ethereal lightning begin to tear through the sky. A deafening roar accompanies the flashes, threatening to shatter the silence of the void. Diana's silhouette is small against the storm as she shouts a warning to Bruce, telling him that if he even looks at the lightning, it will kill him. They move like ghosts through the electrical barrage, eyes fixed firmly on the path. Day 3 brings them to a mountainous ridge where a strange winged creature drifts through the air, emitting a haunting melody represented by floating musical notes. Diana warns that its song is a death sentence to anyone who listens, forcing them to trek in an agonizing silence. On day 7, they reach an endless desert of pale sand that seems to shift and pulse with a life of its own. Diana cautions Bruce that if he stumbles even once, the sands themselves will rise up to kill him. By day 10, their boots are caked in dust and their movements are mechanical from sheer exhaustion. Diana doesn't slow down, her only words being a sharp command for Bruce to keep up. On the 11th day, Batman stops and looks up, his white eyes narrowing as he spots a massive, lumbering shape on the horizon. He asks Diana if that is what he thinks it is, his voice hushed with realization. Diana confirms it is a Cyclops, a giant carrying a tree-sized club, but before Bruce can assume it's another threat, she corrects him. He asks if looking in its eye will kill him, but she says it's just impolite, asking why the giant would bother killing someone so small. The Cyclops passes them by, its massive bloodshot eye staring down at them with a mixture of curiosity and boredom. The scale of the creature is humbling, a reminder of how insignificant they are in this ancient realm. By day 12, the sky has turned a deep, swirling blue dominated by massive planetary bodies that hang low over the horizon. Diana gestures forward, her voice filled with a grim resolve as she urges Bruce onward. Another night falls, Diana settles onto a rocky outcropping, suggesting they set up camp before the bloodworms wake. Batman kneels on the ground nearby, offering to make a fire, his hands searching for something to burn in this lifeless place. They sit in silence by the small, flickering flame, two shadows huddled under a massive stone arch that looks like the ribcage of a fallen god. Above them, a million alien stars glitter in a sky that has never known a sun. On day 13, they trek past floating islands of rock, as Batman asks if this place is truly hell. Diana responds that her mother always made sure it felt like a home as well, showing a softer, more melancholic side of her upbringing. By day 14, they reach the colossal skeletal remains of a beast, the bones forming a bridge over a deep ravine. Batman asks what happened next in the story Diana was telling, and she recounts how the next thing she remembered were policemen pulling bats off her. Walking up a long, gentle slope, Diana expresses her sympathy for Bruce's past, stating that no child should ever lose their father in such a traumatic way. Bruce says nothing, the silence between them filled with the weight of shared grief. They arrive at a raised stone platform where a skeletal figure lies in state. Batman asks who he was, and Diana explains he was a king who died in the noble effort of fighting the Guardian Acrolis. Batman points to the coins resting in the skeleton's eye sockets, asking about their purpose. Diana explains they are payment for Kion, the ferryman, to secure passage to Elysium where the spirits of fallen heroes dwell. Batman scoffs at the term heroes, pointing out that the king ultimately lost his battle. His worldview is practical and harsh. To him, there is no glory in a defeat that leaves one's people without a leader. Diana looks down at the remains, noting that his people loved him enough to leave this tribute regardless of the outcome. Batman asks if the coins actually work, questioning if they truly give anyone passage to another life. Diana looks at him with a piercing, knowing gaze, her eyes reflecting the strange light of the underworld. She is beginning to understand the depth of Batman's skepticism and the pain that fuels it. She explains that while some say the coins do nothing, others believe they grant visions or act as a dream bridge. She cuts the conversation short, pointing toward a massive bridge in the distance and announcing that tonight they camp and tomorrow they fight. The story cuts back to Saturday in Gotham, where an older man with a white mustache grunts under the weight of a heavy task. He mutters to himself about someone telling him it wasn't that heavy, his face etched with the strain of physical labor. In the murky green light of the sewers, he struggles to push a trolley loaded with raw, bloody meat. A guttural, hungry voice from the shadows groans out a demand for meat, the sound echoing off the brick walls. The man stands his ground as a massive, scaly form looms over him in the darkness, dripping with slime. He shouts that the meat is in the trolley and pleads with the beast not to eat him, claiming he's just bones. He screams at the top of his lungs for the creature to stay back, brandishing a handgun with a trembling hand. His face is a mask of terror, the reality of his job finally catching up to his nerves. The beast, Wayland, let out a terrifying roar, his massive jaws filled with jagged teeth snapping in the air. He looks less like a man and more like a prehistoric predator, his humanity buried under layers of scales and hunger. The man stumbles away into a stone tunnel, muttering bloody hell as the sounds of wet crunching and slurping fill the sewer behind him. He has survived another feeding, but the horror of the scene is clearly more than he can bear. Back at the underworld camp, Diana holds up a small vial of glowing green liquid, admitting that Bruce's world is strange to her. She tells him that this elixir won't protect him from injury or death, but it will shield him from Acrolis's deadly magic. Batman takes the vial, his gaze intense as he asks Diana if she truly believes he can do this, if he can actually save his friend. He is looking for more than just magic. He is looking for a reason to believe in his own mission. Diana tells him that everything he needs already lies inside him, her voice filled with a quiet confidence. Bruce raises the vial to his lips and drinks it down, the campfire light casting long, flickering shadows across their small camp. The night deepens. Diana tells him to sleep, her figure a lone silhouette against the vast, star-filled horizon. The world around them is silent. The danger of the coming day. A heavy weight in the air. She whispers a soft Kalinja to Bruce, wishing him a good night in her native tongue. She watches over him as he drifts off, her role as both guide and protector clear in her watchful posture. Bruce falls into a deep, dreamless slumber at first, his body finally succumbing to the exhaustion of their 2-week trek. He lets out a soft moan as the magic of the elixir begins to work on his mind. Eyes flutter, but he doesn't wake, his consciousness drifting into a place where the rules of the underworld no longer apply. The lines of his face soften, the mask of Batman finally slipping away. Diana leans over him, her expression unreadable as she watches him sleep. She reaches out, her hand hovering near his face, as if sensing the transition he is about to undergo. Suddenly, 2 coins appear on Bruce's eyes, just like the fallen kings, bridging the gap between his reality and a vision. He is no longer in the underworld camp. He is being transported to a memory that feels more real than life. Bruce finds himself standing in a vast gray expanse of clouds, wearing his Batman cape over civilian clothes. He looks small and lost in the infinite mist, his posture one of confusion and longing. He reaches up, pulling the heavy, horned cowl from his head with trembling hands. As the mask falls away, he is revealed not as the dark vigilante, but as a young boy searching for something he lost long ago. Young Bruce looks up with wide, shocked eyes, his breath hitching as he gasps out a single word, "Dad?" Standing before him in the mist is Thomas Wayne, looking exactly as he did in Bruce's fondest memories. Thomas turns around with a gentle smile, his hands in his pockets as he greets Bruce with a casual, "Hey, kiddo." He looks healthy and at peace, a stark contrast to the bloody image Bruce has carried for years. In an instant, Bruce is in his father's arms, the two of them locked in a desperate, loving embrace. Bruce clings to him as if he'll never let go, the weight of his adulthood momentarily forgotten in his father's strength. They begin to walk through the clouds together, father and son holding hands like they used to. Thomas asks Bruce what's on his mind, his voice warm and inviting as he guides him through the dreamscape. Bruce looks down, admitting that his father was a hero who saved everyone at the Zooazi, Waylon, all of them. He laments that he's trying to be like him, but he feels like he just keeps hurting everyone he cares about. Thomas closes his eyes, telling Bruce that he might be surprised to hear that he doesn't think of what happened at the zoo as saving him. His expression is serene, as if he's trying to impart a lesson that goes beyond heroics. Bruce stops and looks up at his father with a look of pure confusion, his voice small as he asks, "You don't?" To him, that moment was the defining act of his father's life. Thomas explains that for him, saving Bruce was what he did every single day before that one, the teaching, the being a dad. Bruce shakes his head, struggling to understand a concept that doesn't involve a singular dramatic sacrifice. Thomas kneels down, placing a hand on Bruce's shoulder and telling him that being an engineer isn't about one ribbon cutting. It's the daily commitment to making things better, visualizing what could be and working every day to make it so, especially when it seems out of reach. The dream world begins to change, a massive origami-style Batman figure forming out of the clouds behind them. Bruce whispers that he really misses his dad, the heartbreak of his loss echoing through the surreal landscape. Suddenly, the dream shatters as Bruce wakes up, the coins falling from his eyes as he tries to tell Diana about his vision. She cuts him off, her voice urgent as she tells him it's time, her silhouette dark against the morning sky. Batman pulls his cowl back on, his face returning to its grim mask as Diana tells him to get ready. The softness of the dream is gone, replaced by the cold steel of the mission that lies ahead. He asks about the artifact they need, and Diana responds that she can help him in the fight, but the prize must be given to him. She emphasizes that he must earn it through his own strength and will. She adds that the artifact will only be his when he bests him, gesturing toward the towering stone bridge that marks the Guardian's territory. They stand together, two warriors at the edge of destiny. Batman draws his massive, rectangular slab of a sword, the heavy metal gleaming as he shouts the name Acrolis into the void. Diana stands beside him, her own weapon ready, her eyes scanning the heights of the bridge. Diana throws her head back and let out a blood-curdling war cry, demanding that Acrolis come out and face them. The sound of her voice echoes across the chasm, a challenge that cannot be ignored. From the mists atop the bridge, a massive horned silhouette emerges, carrying a long bow and looking down at the intruders. Well, a deep, resonant voice booms, filled with an ancient, dangerous amusement. Acroles reveals himself as a colossal red centaur, his muscular human torso topped with a horned head and a thick beard. He mocks Diana, calling her the daughter of Circe, and sneering that her mother is too good to consort with lowly beings like himself. Eyes glow with a malevolent yellow light as he fixates on Batman, his voice dripping with contempt. He vows to take divine joy in felling Diana and her mortal mate, his fingers already reaching for a dark arrow. The battle erupts with explosive force as Batman leaps high into the air, his massive hammer raised for a crushing blow. Diana charges beneath him, her colossal sword swinging in a wide arc as she shouts back that they are not together. A deafening clang echoes as their weapons collide with the centaur's defense, sparks flying into the gray air. Acroles is a whirlwind of motion, his arrows flying like dark streaks as Batman and Diana strike from both sides. Diana ducks a massive kick from the centaur's hind legs, her sword whistling through the air. She shouts, "Now!" She's setting up a maneuver, using her incredible speed to keep the Guardian off balance. Batman is slammed back by a powerful blow, a boom shaking the stone bridge as he hits the ground. He recovers instantly, his teeth bared in a snarl of effort as he struggles against the centaur's overwhelming physical power. Diana shouts at him to look out, warning him with a grim urgency never to stand behind a centaur. She knows the creature's true strength lies in its dual nature, and Batman is dangerously close to its lethal hooves. Batman barely has time to gasp out a confused "wah" before a massive red-furred hind leg swings toward him like a battering ram. The sheer size of the horse's body looms over him, a wall of unstoppable muscle. A sickening crack echoes as the kick connects with Batman's chest, sending him flying backward through the air. Blood sprays from his mouth, his armor shattered by the impact as he's hurled toward the edge of the bridge. Body tumbles over the side, falling like a broken doll into the swirling mists below. The bridge towers high above him, a lonely monument to his apparent failure as he disappears from sight. Acroles watches him fall, admitting with a mocking tilt of his head that it's a shame, because the mortal actually had a warrior's heart. He turns back to Diana, his victory seeming almost certain. Suddenly, a skeletal shape streaks down from the sky, its ragged wings beating against the gray air. It's Pegasus, but he looks like a nightmare version of himself, a creature of bone and shadow answering a desperate call. Diana looks up in absolute shock, her mouth falling open as she gasps the name of her mother's steed. She can't believe the wary beast would intervene in a mortal's battle. She closes her eyes for a brief moment, whispering, "Godspeed, my friend," as she realizes the tide of the battle has shifted. She knows that Pegasus doesn't act without reason, and his arrival means Bruce is still in the fight. Acroles laughs, still overconfident as he prepares his bow, musing that Batman might have made a fine bat centaur for his own stables. He is unaware of the fury that is about to descend upon him from above. A massive doom shakes the atmosphere as Pegasus pulls out of his dive, a trail of white smoke marking his incredible speed. The skeletal horse is a blur of motion, a primal force unleashed upon the underworld. Diana looks up, her face filled with a grim triumph, as she shouts a warning to Acroles. She knows the Guardian's arrogance has finally met its match in the form of a resurrected hero. Batman is mounted on the skeletal Pegasus, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated fury as he shouts that he's got a bat centaur right here. He looks like a dark god of war descending from the heavens, his cloak billowing like wings. Acroles sneers, drawing his bow to its limit as he begins to recite an ancient mocking riddle. He calls Diana Amazon and starts the phrase, "from two legs," his voice full of cruel intent. Batman screams a desperate warning for Wonder Woman to look out, his own survival secondary to hers as the centaur prepares his final strike. He is charging headlong into the path of the arrow. Acroles completes the riddle, sneering, "To for, Diana," as he releases a dark, magical arrow aimed straight for her heart. The projectile hums with a lethal energy, cutting through the air like a reaper's scythe. With a sickening thunk, the arrow finds a mark, but not its intended target. Batman has thrown himself in the way, the dark shaft burying itself deep in his chest as Diana looks on in horror, her sword raised too late. Batman's body is jerked backward by the force of the magical projectile, his silhouette stark against the pale sky. Pegasus lets out a silent, skeletal neigh as his rider begins to slip from his back. He lies broken and still, the arrow standing like a grim flag from his chest. The silence that follows is deafening, a finality that seems to mark the end of the Batman's quest. Acroles stands over him, his face contorted in a sneer of triumph as he calls the fallen hero insolent. He believes the battle is won, his arrogance blinding him to the goddess who still stands before him. Diana stalks toward the centaur, her voice a low, dangerous growl as she tells Acrolis he was right about her mother being a master of transformation. She looks down at the broken body of her friend, her grief turning into a cold, lethal rage. In a blur of motion, she smashes the centaur's arrows out of the air, her colossal blade cutting through the wood like it was paper. She is a whirlwind of destruction, moving faster than Acrolis can even track. Acrolis tries to raise his bow, but Diana is already upon him, telling him to watch closely as she transforms his reality into pain. With a thunderous crack, she slams her heavy sword directly into the centaur's face, the impact sending teeth and blood flying into the air. She screams, "Your face!" as she delivers the final crushing blow. The massive red centaur is hurled backward, his bow spinning away as he crashes into the stone of the bridge. His dual nature is finally broken, his body twisting in an unnatural heap as the light fades from his eyes. Acrolis hits the ground with a final heavy thunk, his body going still as he lets out a last pained groan. Diana stands over him for a moment, her breath coming in ragged gasps, the battle finally over. Diana turns and sprints back across the bridge, her voice desperate as she screams Bruce's name. She reaches his side, kneeling in the dust, as she tries to assess the damage from the dark arrow. That man looks up at her with glazing eyes, his voice a faint whisper as he admits that he failed Waylon and couldn't get the artifact. Diana tells him to shh and hold still, her hands gentle as she cradles his head. With a brutal ag, she snaps the shaft of the arrow, the magical energy erupting in a shower of sparks. Batman's silhouette is cast in a violent red light as he screams in agony, his body arching off the ground. Diana pulls him close, telling him that he hasn't failed, and to remember what she told him about the power within himself. She whispers that it's time to get him home, her voice full of a maternal tenderness he hasn't felt in years. Batman's eyes roll back, his head falling back as he mutters a faint, "No, not yet." He is drifting back toward the vision, his mind refusing to leave the clouds where his father still waits. Gloved hand reaches out into the void, grasping at nothing as the world of the living begins to pull him away. The connection to the dream is fading, the bridge between worlds crumbling beneath his consciousness. In the mist, Thomas Wayne's figure is inverted, drifting away into the gray sky as he whispers a final goodbye. Bruce's voice is a broken sob as he gasps that he hasn't gotten to say everything he needed to. The scene fades into a peaceful Sunday morning in Gotham, the city skyline bathed in the soft orange glow of a rising sun. The water reflects the calm of the dawn, a sharp contrast to the violence of the underworld. A Dadhuved alarm clock blares a harsh beep beep as it hits 500 AM, the red numbers cutting through the dimness of a quiet bedroom. It's a reminder of the mundane world that Bruce must once again inhabit. Bruce bolts upright in bed, his silhouette dark against the window as he shouts, "No!" His body is drenched in sweat, his heart hammering against his ribs as he tries to hold on to the memory of his father's touch. He slumps back, his eyes closed as he desperately tries to remember what Diana said, his mind a jumble of magic, battle, and loss. He looks like a man who has lived a lifetime in a single weekend. The memory of Diana appears in his mind, her image clear as she repeats that everything he needs already lies inside him. Her words become his anchor, the truth that will guide him back from the brink of despair. Bruce reaches up, his face contorted in a groan as he touches a very real wound on his shoulder. He pulls something from the injury, his teeth gritted against the sharp, sudden pain of the extraction. He holds up the blood-stained tip of Acrolis's arrow, the golden metal shimmering with a faint, otherworldly light. He realizes that the journey wasn't just a dream. He has brought the artifact back with him. Monday morning arrives and Bruce Wayne returns to the construction site, his arm held in a sling. He walks past the security fence with his lunchbox, his back straight despite the clear physical toll of his vacation. Lucius Fox greets him with a shocked expression, asking what the hell he did to his arm. Bruce offers a small, knowing smirk as he lists off Lucius's own advice. He touched some grass, rode a horse, and got in a fight. When Lucius stares at him in disbelief, Bruce lets out a quiet laugh and says he's just kidding, claiming he actually just slipped in the shower. He turns away, his expression becoming serious as he tells Lucius it's time to build things. Deep in the Gotham sewers, the green light reflects off the ancient bricks of a vaulted tunnel. The air is still and silent, the predatory hunger of the previous days seemingly replaced by a strange, expectant quiet. Attached to a sharp metal spike on the wall is a handwritten note addressed to Way. It tells him to wear the attached necklace and let it touch his skin, ending with a comforting promise, "You are never alone." B. Waylon's massive reptilian eye opens in the dark, the golden iris focusing on the note with an emerging glimmer of human intelligence. The beast is still there, but something in the gaze suggests the man is beginning to wake up. A massive, scaly green hand reaches out, grasping the arrowhead necklace as a gravelly voice rasps out the name Bruce. The artifact begins to glow, a promise of a future where Ivy's influence may be the next challenge to face.